You good there?
Probably not.
Okay. Welcome back to another Wind Down Wednesday. I'm Sam,
I'm Heather.
and today we're talking about how to be hospitable and kind of why it's a nice skill to have if it's not one that you necessarily possess. So let's get into it.
Can I make a random side comment?
I guess.
I find it funny how hospitable and hostility sounds so close together. And it goes through my mind like every time someone says it.
I'm gonna need one of you nerds in the comments to go down and look at the root language for both those and figure out why they're so similar. Because now
Yeah.
I'm curious too.
Anyways, moving on. That was
Ah,
an inner thought that I've been holding in for a while.
one of those stupid stink bugs flying around.
Ugh. Mm.
Go away. So one thing I feel like we're told very often is whenever we have friends, specifically newer friends who come over, they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, you guys are so hospitable. You have like all these things set out for when people come over. Like there's
Great
water set out.
host.
It's like you guys are just such great hosts. How do you do it?" Like before we get to the how, I feel like I should explain why it's nice to be
Hmm.
hospitable. So this is something I get to thank Dr. Adrienne Fletcher for, aka my mother. She was always a very hospitable person to all of my friends growing
Hmm.
up. So if you came over to my house when like I was a kid, you'd go in, my mom would immediately greet you, be like, "Oh, like hi, what's your name?" Get to know you a little bit, and then within about no more than 30 minutes, there'd probably be a like plate of some sort of cookies or dessert, some snack. There'd be like either juice boxes, waters, whatever it may be, depending on what time we came. But there was always just refreshments.
Hmm.
As soon as you got in, she would have those set up. She would bring them in. She would just be making sure that everyone felt just like nice and welcome, as well as beforehand, she would always make sure that she either cleaned up the entire house and all the space, or that we were cleaning up the entire space. So now, like in adult life, when we're having friends over,
Hmm.
even if it's just like two friends stopping by, we're always making sure everything is clean, it's neat, and it just makes it so that when someone comes in, they feel that one, you put in the effort to make them feel at home,
Hmm.
as well as that you actually care about like them enough to make your apartment or your house look nice. So that's why I feel like it's nice to be
Yeah.
hospitable.
I think of create a welcoming space.
So the best way to go about figuring out how to generally be hospitable and figure out what needs to be done, you do have to do a little bit of, I'm going to call it research, but basically just kind of figuring out who is coming, who's like
Hmm.
what type of people are they? Are they people who are a little more casual, who like just have like things out, or are they people who might be a little bit more, I don't want to say like uptight, but a little bit more,
Formal.
yes, that's what I was looking for. Just a little bit more formal. Depending on what type of people they are, is going to depend on what exactly you're going to do. So, for example, if we have
Hmm.
our friends coming over who are more formal, we're probably going to make sure we have some water set out when
Hmm.
they get here. We're probably going to quick throw together a little cheese board because it's just easy.
Hmm. Yeah. Love a solid cheese board.
And we'll
If you
have,
don't know where to start, just get any cheese from Wisconsin.
you'd be surprised how many cheeses actually come from Wisconsin, even if you're like 5, 6, 7 states away.
Yeah.
You just look on the package, it's going to be like made in Wisconsin.
Has like the little barn logo on it.
Which one are you talking about specifically? That's a
I don't
specific one, isn't it?
I don't know. I feel like they all have barns on them. It's Wisconsin. We're like, here's a red barn and cheese.
Pretty much. But having just like little snacks like that for someone who I would say is more formal is really nice. You can plate it however you want. If you have a charcuterie board, you have a cutting board, or if you just have like a cute plate, you
Yeah.
just throw it on there.
Anything.
Or if there's someone who's not super formal, just get like,
Bowl of popcorn.
yep,
Pretzels.
something
Chips
super
salsa is
simple.
super easy too. But like you just dump the chips into a large bowl and then you have a tiny bowl and you put the salsa in there. It's like 2 minutes. Max. Most of that's me trying to find the cute bowl I want.
pretty much. Just having like those little snacks right away, it goes a long way because it's like it shows that you were preparing for someone to come in, and they're gonna feel a little bit more welcome and maybe a little bit more relaxed at the same time while they're enjoying your company and everything. Another big one I feel like people overlook is depending on how long people are going to be around. If you guys aren't, say, like watching a specific show or sporting event or something like
Mhm.
that, to have something going on in the background. So for me, it's always music. And I always have to remember what type of people are we going to have over? Are we going to have people who like just some like quiet, smooth jazz in the background, or just like one of the lo-fi instrumentals,
Mhm.
or is this one of the friend groups I can throw on our? We have something called Chill Vibes playlist, which is just like a ton of chill R&B, hip hop, pop stuff from like late '90s to mid 2010s, like 2015, 2016, stuff like that.
Mhm.
And you just throw it on the background. It doesn't have to be like loud enough that people can really hear it. But when you're sitting in a space and there's no noise going on and you guys are kind of sitting there because there's a lull in the conversation, it gets a little awkward.
Yeah.
So having some sort of thing going on in the background is a lot of fun. One of the other ones we always typically will do is we'll find some 4K live stream on YouTube.
I love little animals. We just did one where we had winter animals and it was really cute. Like all the little white foxes and bunnies and I don't know what else there was, but it was just very cute and snowy.
It's just something nice to have going on in the background. So if someone isn't super invested in the conversation, say like you have five people and two are talking, the other two are talking, the fifth one's kind of sitting there, instead of trying to figure out like, oh, what conversation do I want to be a part of? They can completely just zone out on the TV looking at these 4K video, whatever it may be.
Fireplace video is also really cozy.
We'll always use the 5K fireplace. We just did
Mhm.
one recently with the
5K.
5K, yes, 4K, 4K fireplace, 4K red pandas was one we just recently did, which led to some really entertaining conversations because people were like, "Oh my gosh, I love red pandas." So then we could throw on something like that,
Mhm.
or for a lot of our friends, I feel like we'll throw on something like 4K Norway or something like that, or Italy or something.
Mhm.
And it's just like these really pretty flyovers, but it does help make the space feel a little bit more relaxed. Like if you don't want to continue to engage in a conversation, you can kind of zone out in a way that doesn't make it just look like you're staring off at a wall.
Mhm.
It's a nice little thing that you can do. Another big one I would say is just having a variety of refreshments. So instead of just having, hey, here's water, here's tea, here's coffee, here's wine, here's whiskey, here's cocktails, you can be like, oh, like what would you like? We do have tea, coffee, water, lemon water,
Mhm.
or if you want a cocktail or something, we also have that. And just being prepared to really be a host and make sure that everyone's taken care of. If you notice someone's water is getting a little bit low, just bring out like a water pitchers and you refill it the first time, then after that they can refill it. Most people I feel like are going to, after you do that once, they'll be like, oh, I just emptied this pitcher. Do you mind if I refill it? Do we just refill it at the sink? Do you have a
Mhm.
water tap? Whatever it is. And by being a little bit more hospitable, it makes them feel like they can also do those things to kind
Yeah.
of help the night flow, which is just a really convenient, cozy thing, I guess.
I think also like we don't really actually drink a ton of sodas, but we have sodas here because sometimes people will come over and be like, "Oh, do you have soda?"
Yeah.
Um, so I think just kind of incorporating a wide range of options, even if they're ones that you don't personally gravitate towards.
Yeah. And especially if it's something that doesn't really go bad for a long time, like soda.
Hmm.
Obviously, something like a beer is going to be a little bit harder because beer is going to expire, I think, a little bit quicker than soda. Or if you have, say, like a bag of chips and you don't really eat chips, okay, awesome. Just leave that bag somewhere in your pantry sealed up. So then when someone comes over who wants it,
Hmm.
you can just go ahead, grab it then, open it then for them, and then you're good to go. So having that variety of options, I think, is a really nice thing. Because if you go somewhere, for example, say you aren't drinking soda, and or I guess for example, say you're someone who is diabetic, so like you can't have any sugar,
Hmm.
and you go to someone's house, they're like, oh, like what can I get you to drink? We've got soda. I've got like these pre-mixed cocktails. Anything that you're like, oh well, I can't really have any of that.
Hmm.
So you're like, I'll just take water. But having like a little bit of preparedness, you're like, okay, I know someone's coming who might not be drinking soda, or they might not be drinking something with sugar, or maybe they can't have gluten. It's
Hmm.
like, well, what do you have to offer people in these situations?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying you should always have all of these things just like readily stocked.
Part of it's just like knowing who's coming over, if they're a friend or a work kind of like colleague who you're hanging out with. You can always ask, like, hey, is there any dietary restrictions I should know about? Especially if somebody's bringing like their partner who you may not have met before. It's always appropriate to ask.
I know we had one person over because we were thinking about opening a fudge, but the fudge had nuts in it,
Hmm.
and she was allergic to nuts. So I'm like, okay, let's not bring the nuts out just in case. But also, I don't want to make her feel excluded. Like, oh no, you can't have this because it has nuts.
Hmm.
Like, just don't have to bring it out. But obviously, you can always play this by ear and just seeing what people like and also what they don't like or what they're not allowed to have more
Hmm.
so.
I guess a variety of option of board games or activities. I think it kind of depends how long people are going to be staying, but sometimes having just a couple card game options. Board games tend to be a specific group, where
Yep.
you kind of like pre-plan, like, hey, we're going to be playing this board game. But I think some card games, like, what do you meme, or what was the new one, like New Phone, Who
New phone, who
Dis?
dis? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's just a couple card games out there that you can always have. They don't take up that much space in terms of storing. But then if there is ever kind of like a lull in conversation, but you get the sense that people want to stay or we're planning to stay longer, that can be an activity to do. Or sometimes there's games like on the TV that we'll have. So like Jackbox can always be fun. Um, I think just having a couple options, like we don't always necessarily plan to have them, but
Yeah.
just, you know.
It's definitely good to have something to do if you are, yeah, something to do if you guys are going to be hanging out for a while. If you guys are hanging out for, I'd say, like 2 hours, you can probably fill 2 hours pretty easily with just conversation. But if
Mhm.
it's anywhere from like 3 to 5 hours, you probably need to figure some sort of focal point out. Otherwise, the conversation is probably going to eventually die off a little bit.
Mhm.
Granted, some people can talk for literally 8 hours straight and not run out of conversation topics, but that's not everyone. So again, this goes back to the first thing I was saying of know who's coming and kind of know what their personality is, what they like, what they don't
Mhm.
like, whether that's going to be the music or the style of hosting that you should be doing, whether it's very hands-on, making sure that they have everything that they need, or if it's going to be very laid back, you're like, yep, here's everything, help yourself, but you obviously bring them that first little bit so that they do still feel
Mhm.
comfortable with
That's all I got.
everything. In general, I feel like being a good host and being someone who is very hospitable goes a long way. Not only are you basically making it so someone is comfortable within your home, within your space, but you're also building that rapport with them a little bit, which could bring some very good things down the line in other places in your life, whether that's at work or just in life in general with your
Mhm.
friends. So these are some basic tips I would say on being hospitable. If you guys have any other
Yeah, I love
tips,
hearing
tricks,
like what other people do as well.
let us know down in the comments. Make sure you like this video, comment, and if you'd like to, I appreciate it if you guys would subscribe. We do this every Wednesday. But until next time, hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Cheers.